I brushed the front of my navy dress, smoothing it even though there weren't any real wrinkles. It was the kind of outfit I always wore to family dinners. Modest enough to avoid Kelly's side glances, but polished enough to feel decent. At 77 I didn't care for trends, but I still liked to look presentable. Brian said dinner was at 7. I had about an hour left. I glanced around my living room where every corner held a memory. Our golden anniversary photo with Walter, little Brian holding his first fish, Zachary and Emily on their graduation days. Each picture froze a moment when life felt simple. My gaze lingered on Walter's photo. Even after 15 years without him, I still heard his voice in my head. Margaret, don't let them walk over you. Walter always stood his ground, even with Brian. I never could. My phone buzzed. It was Brian. Smiling, I reached for my glasses, guessing he might offer a ride, though he hadn't in years. But the message read, "Mom, sorry. We can't make it tonight. Kelly's having her co-workers over. We'll reschedule." I stared at it. Just yesterday he said I needed to be there for some big announcement. Another message popped up. "You weren't invited. My wife doesn't want you here." My hands trembled. My chest tightened. That couldn't be from my son. But it was his name. His number. I sank into the chair, still holding the phone like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. Memories crashed into me. Brian holding my hand on his first day of school. Asking for dating advice as a teen. Glowing as he introduced me to Kelly. And now this cold, detached. Final. Was this sudden? Or just the first honest moment? How many dinners was I barely tolerated at? How many smiles were forced? I glanced at a glossy brochure on the coffee table. Lakeview Ridge Estates. Their new townhouse with a dock in Riverview. I'd helped buy it. 6 months ago I gave them $120,000. "It's a family investment," Brian had said. "You'll have your own little corner." I remembered laughing. Apparently that corner no longer existed. I thought back to that day at Willow Creek Federal Bank. The manager gave me a puzzled look. "You sure about this, Mrs. Benson? That's a lot of money." I was sure. Walter left me enough. I believed helping Brian was the right thing. It didn't stop there. I helped with the new car. Safer for the kids. Paid for Zachary's private school. Covered Kelly's continuing ed classes. Paid for a kitchen remodel because she deserved a comfortable space. Every time I wrote a check I thought I was supporting my family. And what did I get? A few phone calls on holidays, stiff hugs, and now, that message. I walked to my mother's old secretary desk and opened the drawer with all my financial records. The folder marked Brian was the thickest. Inside were receipts. $20,000 for a business he gave up in 6 months. Tuition bills. Roof repairs. Zachary's car insurance. I had spent years helping them. And for what? To be turned away from the house I helped buy. The phone buzzed again. My stomach twisted, but it was Emily. "Grandma, are you coming over today? I miss you." I hesitated. Emily had always been different. Thoughtful. Sincere. Even when the rest pulled away, she stayed close. I typed back slowly, "Sweetheart, it looks like your parents think it's best I stay home." Her reply came quickly. "What? But Dad said yesterday you had to come." So, she didn't know. I looked back at the thick folder. All these years I thought I was earning their love. Turns out I was just renting their time and my lease had run out. I picked up the phone and called the bank. "Good evening, Willow Creek Federal Bank. How can I help you?" "Yes, this is Margaret Benson. I need to talk about some payments from my account." "Of course. I'll just need to confirm your identity." As she ran through the questions, a plan began to form. It was simple. Fair. Clear. "What would you like to do, Mrs. Benson?" "I want to cancel every automatic payment and transfer." "All of them?" Pause. "All of them? You've got quite a few." "Yes. And I want to revoke the power of attorney I gave my son, Brian Benson." "This is a significant change. Would you like to visit the branch in person?" "I'll be there first thing tomorrow. But I want everything frozen tonight." "We can suspend them until your visit." While she typed, I looked at Walter's photo. "You were right, honey. Even your kids can sit on your shoulders. If you let them." "All right, Mrs. Benson. All 174 regular payments and transfers have been suspended." 174. I had no idea there were that many. I thanked her and hung up. And for the first time in a long time I felt relief. It felt like someone had finally taken a backpack full of bricks off my shoulders. Just as I exhaled, the phone buzzed again. It was Brian. Emily must have said something to him. I didn't bother picking up. Instead, I typed a message, then pay your own way. Freeloaders. My thumb hovered over the send button. Was I really ready to let go? To cut the thread I'd held together for years with patience and money? But hadn't they been the ones to tear it first, when they pushed me out of the very house I helped pay for? I hit send, then shut the phone off. For the first time in ages, the quiet in my living room wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. I'd done something for myself. Just me. Felt free. I walked to the hallway and pulled out an old photo album. Page by page, my life passed before me. Our wedding day, Brian's birth, family road trips. Somewhere in those years, I had disappeared into everyone else's needs. Walter used to tell me, "Margaret, don't let anyone take you for granted." Even on his deathbed, he made me promise to care for myself the way I always cared for others. I hadn't kept that promise. Not until now. I closed the album and tucked it back on the shelf. I slipped out of the dress I'd worn for a dinner that never happened and changed into my house robe. Then I made a cup of tea and finally opened that novel I'd been meaning to read forever. But life kept getting in the way. Endless favors, constant request. Tomorrow would be different. A clean start. No more funding people who couldn't be bothered to respect me. Just 174 receipts, and 174 reasons to walk away. I sipped my tea and flipped to chapter 1. The silence felt good. My phone stayed off, and for the first time in years, my heart didn't feel like it was racing to keep up. Willow Creek Federal Bank opened at 9, but I was already there at 8:40. That night had been the first I'd slept without medication in years. The determination gave me energy. I was the first one inside. The young teller smiled politely. "Good morning, how can I help you?" "I need to speak with Mrs. Howard," I said. Linda Howard had been with the bank nearly 30 years. Walter and I always trusted her. Moments later, I sat in her office. She looked the same as always. Silver hair neatly pinned, soft eyes behind thin glasses. "Margaret, it's been a while," she said warmly. "I got word about your call yesterday. All 174 payments were suspended as requested. Is everything okay?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "I want to cancel every one of them permanently. And I need to remove Brian's access to my accounts." She took off her glasses and cleaned them just like she used to whenever she was thinking hard. "We've known each other a long time. Are you sure?" "I'm sure." She nodded and started typing. "All right. I'll get the documents ready. It'll take a moment. There's quite a list." While the printer worked, she handed me a thick folder. "Here are the last year's transactions. Might be good to look them over." I opened it. Page after page of withdrawals. The first, $3,800 for the mortgage on Brian and Kelly's new house. I remembered the day Brian brought me to see it. "Mom, this place is perfect for the whole family. You'll have a private guest room, no stairs." A room I'd never been allowed to step foot in. Next was $850 for Kelly's luxury SUV insurance. She said it was necessary for high-end clients. Then came the country club fees, dental bills for Zachary's jaw alignment, Emily's tuition, the only one I didn't regret. With every receipt came a memory. A tearful phone call. A desperate favor. "Mom, we're barely getting by." "Grandma, this one's the latest model." "You wouldn't want Zachary to grow up with a complex, would you?" Line after line, proof of their guilt trips and my misplaced trust. Linda's voice pulled me out of it. "Here's the paperwork to cancel all payments, and the form to revoke the power of attorney. Please read it and sign." I didn't hesitate. I signed. She looked at me gently. "If you ever need anything, Margaret." "I'm all right," I said with a quiet smile. For the first time in years, I meant it. Leaving the bank, I felt light, like years of weight had lifted. My next stop was the law office of Francis Whitaker. He'd helped our family since Walter was alive. His beard was grayer, his glasses thicker, but that sharp look in his eyes was still there. "Mrs. Benson, this is a surprise," he said, motioning to the chair. "What can I do for you?" "I'd like to update my will and create a lifetime trust to protect my assets." He raised an eyebrow. "May I ask what brought this on?" "Family matters," I said simply. He nodded and didn't press. We spent the next hour going over trusts, will clauses, and protections from outside interference. He explained everything patiently. I asked questions. For the first time I felt like this money, my money, was finally under my control. When we finished I glanced at my phone. 15 missed calls from Brian, 7 from Kelly, 3 from Zachary. None from Emily. Should I have the documents ready by Friday? Francis asked as he walked me to the door. The sooner the better, I said. And thank you. He smiled. You know, Walter always said you were stronger than you looked. I think he was right. On the way home I stopped by the grocery store. I bought food just for myself. No Brian, no Zachary, no preferences but my own. Felt strange. And lovely. What I didn't expect was the surprise waiting for me when I got back home. Emily was sitting on the porch, arms hugged around her knees. The second she spotted my car she jumped up. Grandma, she called out, rushing to grab the grocery bags from my arms. I've been calling all day. Why didn't you answer? I studied her face. Emily looked so much like me at her age. Same warm brown hair, same tight little crease between her brows when she was worried. I've had a full day, sweetheart, I said softly, unlocking the door. Come in, tell me what's going on. We settled in the kitchen. She tapped her fingers nervously against the table while I put things away. Grandma, what's happening? Dad's freaking out. He said you blocked all the payments and turned off your phone. I did, I answered as I filled the kettle. I've stopped supporting your family financially. Her voice cracked with confusion. Why? What happened? I placed the kettle on the stove before I spoke again. Your father canceled my invitation to last night's family dinner. Said your mother didn't want me there. Emily's face went pale. No, that can't be right. Dad's been saying all week how important it was you come. I pulled out my phone and handed it to her. Her hand flew to her mouth as she read the message. Oh my God, Grandma. I had no idea. I swear. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't understand how he could do that. I poured her a cup of tea and set it gently in front of her. That message was the final straw. I've been paying for everything, from the roof over your heads to Zachary's tennis lessons, and yesterday I realized just how little it meant to them. She stared into her cup for a moment, then looked up. You know, I've always seen how they take advantage of you. Especially Mom. I tried to talk to Dad about it, but he always took her side. I nodded. Emily had always understood more than she let on. What happens now? She asked quietly. They've got loans, payments. They'll have to figure it out on their own, I replied with a shrug. Your dad's a building inspector and your mom's a successful real estate agent. They'll survive. The phone on the desk rang again. Brian. I silenced it. You're not going to answer? Emily asked. Not today, I said calmly. I need time to breathe. And he needs time to understand the weight of what he said. She studied me for a long moment. I've never seen you like this. Determined. I haven't seen myself like this in a long time, I said with a faint smile. When she got up to leave, she gave me a hug, longer, tighter than usual. Are you sure you'll be okay? I can stay if you want. I'll be fine, love. I stroked her cheek. This isn't your fight. At the door she paused. I'm not taking sides, Grandma. I hope you know that. Of course, I said gently. This is between me and your parents. You don't have to carry it. After she left, the silence returned. I checked the mail and found a notice. Zachary's credit card payment had already failed. That didn't take long. I set it aside and sat by the window. The phone kept buzzing, lighting up with calls and text, but I ignored it. Instead, I pulled out a photo album. I opened to a random page 20 years ago. Me and Walter, young Brian and Kelly, little Zachary and Emily on a picnic blanket. All of us smiling. When did those smiles become strained? When did help turn into obligation? When did love get priced in monthly payments? I shut the album and walked to the mirror in the hallway. The face staring back at me looked tired. But beneath that I saw something stronger. A kind of resolve I hadn't felt in years. Time to remember who you are, Margaret Benson, I whispered to my reflection. Just then the doorbell rang. My heart skipped. Brian. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't him. It was Lauren Campbell, basket in hand. Margaret, she said, wrapping me in a hug as soon as I opened the door. I called, but when you didn't pick up, I figured I'd drop by. Come in, I said. I turned my phone off. Bit of a family emergency. She set the basket on the table, homemade cookies and a jar of jam. Let me guess. Kelly again. Lauren never liked my daughter-in-law. She used to call her a manipulator. No, I replied. Brian this time. I told her about the message, the revoked payments, the bank visit. Lauren listened silently, then squeezed my hand. Finally, she said, looking relieved. I've wanted to say something for years. But it wasn't my place. You were right, I sighed. I just didn't want to admit it. So what now? She asked, pouring tea. They'll have to deal with the consequences, I said. And I need time to feel what I feel. We talked late into the evening. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's mother or grandmother, just a woman talking to her friend. It felt good. After Lauren left, the house was dark. I finally turned my phone back on. 37 missed calls. 23 messages. I skimmed through them, frowning at the tone, desperate then accusatory. Mom, why isn't the mortgage going through? It's Kelly. We need to talk now. Grandma, my card's been declined. I'm stuck here with no cash. And the last one from Brian. Mom, I'm coming over. We need to talk. I exhaled slowly, feeling my shoulders tense. Was I ready for this? Didn't matter. He was on his way. I switched off the living room lights and went to the kitchen. I set the kettle on and took out my best teacup, the one I used only on special days. Today was one of those days. Today was the day Margaret Benson finally said no. I heard a car outside. Brian. Alone. No Kelly, that was a first. She usually handled the important conversations. The doorbell rang. It sounded like a starting bell. I straightened my back, walked over and opened the door. Brian stood there looking like a man who'd just been hit by life. His shirt was wrinkled, his face pale, eyes darting with panic. I stepped aside silently to let him in. Mom, what is going on? He burst out, skipping any kind of greeting. The mortgage bounced, the bank says you froze everything. What's happening? I walked calmly to the kitchen where the kettle had started to boil. Would you like some tea? I asked, pulling out a second cup. Tea. He threw his hands up. We're in crisis. Kelly's falling apart. The bank's calling non-stop. I poured the water and faced him. I've canceled all 174 payments. I won't be restarting them. He blinked, stunned. Wait, what? Why? He slumped into the chair across from me, watching me like I'd become someone else. I met his gaze and spoke plainly. You weren't invited. My wife doesn't want you there. That was your message, wasn't it? He paled. Mom, that was... I didn't mean it like that. I was angry. Kelly was upset and And you thought the best way to fix things was to insult your mother? I said quietly, sliding the teacup toward him. He didn't touch it. Please, Mom, he said, his voice dropping. We need help. There's the mortgage loans. Zachary's college. I took a sip of my tea, feeling heat and clarity rise in my chest. And did you think of that when Kelly mocked my clothes? When Zachary forgot my birthday? When no one called on the anniversary of my father's death? Brian looked ashamed, but I could see a flash of annoyance under it. He never was a good liar. Mom, we do appreciate everything, really. But I was done with words. We do love you, even Kelly does, Brian said, fumbling for words. There are just misunderstandings sometimes. He looked like a little boy caught with his hand in the cookie jar, not a grown man with 2 kids. I looked at him quietly. Brian, I don't believe you. You don't love me, you love my money. My help. My silence. But not me. That's not true. He jumped up from his chair. How can you say that? Because it is, I said evenly, not moving. When was the last time you asked how I was doing? Called just to check in? Invited me over without needing a babysitter or a checkbook. He opened his mouth, then closed it, lost for words. Kept going. Your father always said love can't be bought. I didn't listen. I thought if I just gave enough, you'd appreciate me. But I was wrong. Mom, he stepped closer, let me bring Kelly this weekend. We'll talk it through calmly. No, I said, shaking my head. There's nothing to discuss. My decision is final. His face tensed. How are we supposed to pay the mortgage? Or the car loans? Zachary's tuition? You're both employed adults. You'll manage. My voice was steady, but I saw the anger start to rise in his eyes. You can't do this to us, he shouted. After everything Everything you what? I stood too, cutting him off. What have you done for me, Brian? Name one selfless thing you've done. One time you gave without expecting something in return. He stared at the floor, scrambling for something, anything, to say. But nothing came. I let out a tired sigh. Exactly. You're embarrassing me, he mumbled, taking a step back. Oh. And how do you think I felt being uninvited to a family dinner in a house I helped pay for? He rubbed the back of his neck. Same nervous gesture from his teenage years. It was a mistake, Mom. I've already apologized. What more do you want? Me on my knees. No, I want you to leave, I said quietly but firmly. When I'm ready to talk, I'll let you know. He blinked like he didn't believe what he was hearing, then walked out without another word. The door slammed. I listened to the sound of his car fade away before sitting down again. My hands trembled. It had taken everything I had not to back down. Part of me wanted to run after him, promised to fix it all just so he wouldn't be mad. But I didn't. Instead, I finished my tea and washed the dishes. I needed the motion to keep my thoughts from spiraling. The phone rang. Kelly. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a message popped up. Edith, we need to talk. Brian told me about the conversation. I think this is all a terrible misunderstanding. Let's talk like adults. Actually laughed. Like adults was one of her favorite phrases, usually right before she condescended to me. I didn't respond. The next morning, Francis Whitaker stopped by with the updated will and trust paperwork. It's ready, he said, laying the forms out on my table. The trust places the full estate under your control while you're alive. Upon your death, 40% goes to Emily, 10% to a literacy nonprofit, and the rest per your instruction. Brian and Zachary receive minimum shares. Kelly receives nothing. I read every line. That's correct, I said, signing each page. Francis nodded. In 30 years, I've rarely seen someone make changes this clear, this quickly. Most people hesitate. I've done enough hesitating. He collected the documents. I'll file these today and send you copies this week. If you need legal support with fallout from the family, I'm here. After he left, I went for a walk. It was a clear day, just cool enough to be comfortable. I ended up at the little park where Walter and I used to go on weekends. I sat on a bench and watched kids build castles in the sandbox with their parents. One young mom knelt beside her boy, gently showing him how to pack the sand. I used to do the same thing with Brian. When did that closeness vanish? My phone buzzed. Zachary. I debated a second, then picked up. Grandma, he said, voice tight. Is it true? Did you cancel the payments? Yes, I did. But why? He sounded honestly confused. Dad said you were upset about a message or something. My card got declined. I can't pay my rent. I sighed. That was always Zachary, straight to how things affected him. You're 23. You've got a job at an insurance firm. Why are you still relying on me? He paused. Because you've always helped me. Exactly. You've all come to expect it, never thinking about what I feel. Or how I felt when your father told me I wasn't welcome in that house. There was a long silence. Did Dad really say that? He did. And that was it? Yes. That was the last straw. 4 years I paid for your education, your car, your tennis club, your home. And in return I got polite calls on holidays and ignored birthdays. Grandma, I didn't know you felt like this. Because none of you ever asked. More silence. Then quietly, so what now? Now you take care of yourself. Like grown-ups do. But I have to go, Zachary. Think about how you've treated me. Think hard. I ended the call and sat quietly watching the breeze move through the trees. Felt both sad and right. That night I finally finished the novel I'd started weeks ago. Before bed I checked my phone again. More missed calls from Brian and Kelly. One new message from Emily. Grandma, everything's a mess here. My parents are fighting, Zachary's freaking out about money. Are you okay? Can I come over tomorrow? I replied, yes, sweetheart. I'd love that. I'm fine. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Kelly stood on my porch, dressed to perfection, holding a glossy bakery box. Good morning, Edith, she said, smiling. May I come in? We need to talk. I stepped aside without a word. She sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. There's been a big misunderstanding, she began. Really? Brian never should have sent that message. It was a heat-of-the-moment thing. We were overwhelmed, planning dinner, work deadlines. I cut her off. Kelly, let's not pretend. You're not here to apologize. You're here because the money's stopped. Her smile twitched but returned quickly. That's not fair. I truly regret what happened. You're important to us. You're part of the family. I looked her in the eyes. Important? Then why wasn't I welcome at your table? She gave a little sigh, the kind you use on someone you think won't understand. That night was special. We had important guests, potential clients, Kelly began, still wearing that polished smile. I just wanted the night to go smoothly. You know how important this dinner was for my career. And you thought I'd ruin it? I raised an eyebrow. Was it my clothes? Something I'd say? That's not what I meant, she said tightly. Let's be honest. You and we've never had an easy relationship. But that doesn't mean you should tear the family apart. Brian's a mess. Zachary can't pay his bills. We might lose the house. The house I paid for, I reminded her. Which we helped with, she corrected quickly. We put in plenty too. I looked at her, perfect, confident, always in control. She'd been in my family for 25 years, yet we'd never truly connected. Kelly, I said, leaning forward, I'm done. No more money. No more cars. No more college tuition. This is final. Her expression hardened. The charm dropped, and that calculating edge I'd always sensed showed through. You can't do this to us. After everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked, genuinely curious. We included you. We let you be part of your grandkids' lives. We took care of you. I let out a short laugh. When was the last time you asked how I was doing without needing something? Kelly stood abruptly, her face flushed. You'll regret this. We're all you've got. Who's going to look after you when you're old? I will. I stood too. The same way I always did before I spent my time and savings keeping your family afloat. She stormed toward the door, pausing at the threshold. This isn't over. Brian won't let it go. You're his mother. He has rights. Rights to what? My money. I shook my head. Come back when you learn what respect looks like. After the door slammed, I felt empty. Like the curtain had finally dropped after a long play. Outside life carried on. Kids rode bikes. Neighbors watered flowers. The world didn't pause. I glanced at the pile of unpaid bills on the kitchen table. For once, I didn't rush to pay them out of guilt. I could take care of them on my terms now. I could finally buy a new dress or sign up for the art class I'd been eyeing for years. For the first time in forever, I was free. Free from guilt, duty, and constant sacrifice. I picked up the phone and dialed Lauren. Still planning that mountain trip next month? I asked. Of course. You want to come? I do, I said, smiling. I'm free now. After our call, I grabbed an old notebook and started a list. Places I wanted to visit. Things I'd always dreamed of doing but never had time for, because someone always needed something. This was my time now. The phone rang. Brian. I ignored it. 2 weeks passed quietly. I'd expected pushback. More begging, more guilt. But after Kelly's visit, the silence was almost eerie. Only Emily came by a few times, and we both silently agreed not to talk about the rest of the family. That Tuesday morning, I sat on the veranda with coffee and a travel catalog. I was already going to the mountains with Lauren. Why not go bigger? Italy. Walter always wanted to take me there. His family was from Naples. We'd saved for it, but his health failed before we could go. I flipped through photos of Rome and Florence, imagining myself wandering cobbled streets in comfortable shoes. No urgent calls, no demands, just peace. The doorbell broke my thoughts. Lauren stood there with a big basket. Good morning, world traveler, she smiled. I brought croissants and gossip. I laughed and let her in. We sat on the porch. She poured coffee and pulled warm pastries from her basket. So, she grinned, how's freedom treating you? Still adjusting, I admitted. Sometimes I wake up thinking I forgot something. Then I remember, I'm only responsible for me now. She nodded knowingly. That's normal. You lived for everyone else for so long. Your body's not used to the quiet. She paused. I saw Kelly yesterday at the grocery store. Cans and pasta. No organic, no imported cheese. Really? What did she look like? Not like her usual polished self. Hair flat, clothes a little worn. She didn't see me and I didn't say hello. I tried picturing her without the gloss. It wasn't easy. I guess they're finally feeling the squeeze. I said quietly. About time, Lauren snapped. That woman never respected you. Especially not after all you did for them. I know. It's still strange though thinking of them struggling. Brian never could save. Well, now he'll learn, she said matter of fact. He's too old to be leaning on your apron strings. I smiled. Lauren never sugarcoated things. That's what I loved about her. She noticed the catalog. What are you planning? Italy. I handed it to her. Walter always dreamed of taking me. Go, she said. When? Maybe in the fall. I need to plan. Why wait? Go in June, it's warm but not too hot. He was right. I'd always postponed. Always had a reason to put myself last. You know what? I smiled. I'll call today. How you're talking, she beamed. And hey, if you want company, I've got my passport. We spent the rest of the morning planning routes and dreaming about pasta and piazzas. I hadn't felt that excited in years. As soon as Lauren left, I called the agency and booked a consultation. Then I pulled out the old atlas Walter gave me and traced the map of Italy with my finger. The doorbell rang. It was Zachary. Disheveled, eyes tired. Grandma, can I come in? I nodded silently and let him in. He sat stiffly on the couch, wringing his hands. Want some tea? I asked. No thanks, he muttered. I need help. I sat across from him, steady and calm. What kind of help, Zachary? I asked gently. He took a breath like someone bracing for cold water. Money, Grandma. I need money. My credit card's frozen, the bank's calling. I can't cover rent or the car loan. His voice shook. He looked less like a man and more like a lost boy. The same boy Brian and Kelly had spoiled for years, and I had too. He never had to struggle. How much do you owe? I asked. About $7,000, he mumbled. I got carried away, new phone, trip to the coast, a few parties. I waited quietly. Finally he looked up. I know I haven't been the best grandson. I haven't called, haven't visited. But I really do love you. Please help me. I'll pay you back, I swear. I studied his face, trying to see past the charm he definitely inherited from his mother. You're 23. You've worked at the insurance office almost 2 years. Why don't you know how to manage money? I don't know, he admitted, embarrassed. I never had to think about it. You and my parents always helped. Exactly, I said. You've always had someone fix things for you. But that won't last forever. I get it. Really. I'll learn. I'll pick up a second job, cut expenses. Just this one last time, Grandma. I shook my head. No, Zachary. He blinked. What? What am I supposed to do? What grown-ups do, I said calmly. Talk to the bank. Find extra income. Cut back. Handle it. He stared at me like I was speaking another language. But, that's so complicated. Life is complicated, I said, especially when you're responsible for your choices. He jumped up, flushed with frustration. So you're just dropping me? After everything? I love you, Zachary, I replied steadily. That's why I'm not feeding your dependency anymore. That's not love, it's enabling. You're punishing me because of Dad, he snapped. The resemblance to Kelly in that moment was striking. The same anger at being told no. Sit down, please, I said softly. He hesitated, then slumped back onto the couch. I'm not punishing anyone. I just stopped trying to buy love that should be freely given. I gave him a moment. Tell me, when's the last time you stopped by just to talk? No favor, no money. He avoided my eyes. You can't remember, I said. Because for years now, our relationship's been a transaction. I give. You pretend to care. That's not family, it's a contract. That's not fair, he muttered, but it lacked conviction. Oh, I asked. Name one thing you've done for me this past year just because you wanted to. He looked down, brow furrowed. I came to your birthday, he finally offered. Yes, I said. Late, empty-handed, and left before the candles cooled. Do you even remember what you said when you left? He shook his head. You said you had better plans. His shoulders sank. I'm not angry, I said gently. But I'm done playing a role that leaves me drained and invisible. He said nothing, just sat there hunched over. For a moment I saw the small boy I once helped ride a bike, defiant but unsure. Listen, I offered. I won't give you money, but I can offer something else. He glanced up wary. Like what? My friend Francis, he's a lawyer. He's looking for a part-time assistant. Filing papers, answering calls. It won't fix everything, but it's a start. Want me to talk to him? You do that? Even after what I said? I love you, I said. But from now on that love comes with healthy boundaries. He paused, then nodded. Hey, yeah. I'll try. After he left, I sat in silence. There was a heaviness but also something lighter beneath it. Maybe it was the first honest moment we'd had in years. Or maybe it was another performance. Time would tell. That evening Emily came by. Calm and collected as always. I ran into Zachary, she said, helping me with dinner. He was quiet. We talked a bit. About money. And growing up. I chopped vegetables. He didn't take it well. She stirred dressing. It's good for him. He's never been pushed to face anything. Though just a year apart, she and Zachary were opposites. Emily had always been more grounded. How are things at home? I asked gently. She sighed. Not great. Mom blames Dad for failing to win you over. Dad blames her for driving you away. It's nonstop bickering. I'm sorry, I said, placing a hand on her shoulder. It's okay, she replied. Their marriage was never about love. It was comfort and appearances. Now that the money's gone. She didn't finish. He didn't have to. They're selling Mom's SUV, she added, setting the table. The one you paid for. They're trying to refinance the mortgage too. I nodded but said nothing. Part of me felt guilt. The other part knew this was long overdue. You know, Grandma, Emily said, sitting down, I support your decision. I looked at her, surprised. You do? I've seen how they use you. Especially Mom. I've tried to talk to Dad, but he always brushes it off. I sat beside her, touched. Thank you, sweetheart. That means more than you know. He squeezed my hand. You've spent so many years caring for all of us. It's time you care for yourself. We spent dinner talking about her job, my Italy trip, books we were reading. Just normal things. No tension. No guilt. No asks. Felt like how family should be. When she got up to leave, she hugged me tighter than usual. You know I'll always be here for you, right? No matter what happens with my parents. I smiled and stroked her cheek. And I'll always be here for you, not because I have to, but because I want to. After she left, I sat alone for a while, thinking. How strange that the most mature, empathetic person in my family was the youngest. Maybe that's what legacy really is. Not just money or heirlooms, but the values we pass on. The phone rang. Brian. I hesitated. Then answered. Yes, Brian. Mom. His voice was tight, uncertain. We need to talk tomorrow, Brian said. As a family. About what? I asked evenly. About everything. The situation. How we might fix it. I sighed. Brian, I already told you and Kelly. My decision is final. Please, Mom, he begged. Just hear us out. We're ready to compromise. I paused. Part of me wanted to shut it down completely. But deep down I knew I didn't want to sever ties forever. All right. 2:00. At my house. Thank you, he said, relief in his voice. We'll be there. All of us. I hung up and looked out the window. The sky was soft gold and rose, peaceful. Tomorrow wouldn't be like the other talks. This time I had boundaries. I got up early the next day, restless. To calm myself, I worked in the garden, pulling weeds, watering plants, letting the rhythm settle my nerves. By noon I'd showered and made a light lunch. I still had time to prepare, mentally. At exactly 2 the doorbell rang. Brian stood alone. The others are on their way, he said. But I wanted a word first. I led him into the living room. His shirt was wrinkled, eyes sunken. He looked exhausted. Mom, he said, sitting down, I want you to know I didn't plan what's about to happen. Kelly did. What's about to happen? I asked. She thought it'd help if more people were here to show how serious this is. Just then 3 cars pulled into the driveway. I looked out the window. Kelly stepped out first, immaculate as ever, her chin high. Zachary and Emily followed. In the other cars, Kelly's parents, her siblings, their spouses, faces I barely recognized. I turned to Brian. You brought outsiders into my home to settle a private matter? Before he could answer, the doorbell rang again, sharper this time. Kelly stood at the door, smiling too widely. Edith, good afternoon. We're all here to discuss things. As a family. I looked past her. At least 10 people crowded the steps, most of them uncomfortable, unsure why they were even here. Kelly, I said calmly. I didn't invite these people. This is my house. Right now only you, Brian, and the kids are welcome. The rest need to leave. She blinked. Edith, don't be inhospitable. These people came out of concern. They came at your request, not mine. Pause. Her smile faltered. She turned back to her relatives. Well, you continue this privately. Please wait outside or take a walk. After some awkward shifting, they nodded and wandered off down the street. I stepped aside and let Kelly, Zachary, and Emily in. Once the door closed, I turned to them. All right. What is this really about? Kelly spoke first. Edith, your choice to stop helping financially didn't just affect us. It affected everyone. My parents were counting on us. Brian's brother is out of work. Neil. I cut in. The one I haven't seen in 5 years because I was forgotten at gatherings? Brian looked down. Kelly continued, unfazed. The point is, your decision hurt the whole family. Zachary jumped in. I'm being evicted, Grandma. You could stay with your parents, I said. That's the problem. Kelly snapped. We're barely making ends meet. The bank is threatening foreclosure. I turned to Emily. And you? I'm here for myself, she said. Not to speak for them. I support your choice. Kelly gave her a glare, then turned back to me. Edith, we're willing to talk. We know we made mistakes. The message Brian sent was a mistake. This isn't about that message, I said. It was the last straw, but not the only one. This is about years of being ignored, used, and disrespected. Used. Kelly said sharply. We're family. Families help each other. Funny how that only comes up when you need money, I said. Where was that unity when I spent holidays alone? When I was sick and no one checked in? When Walter died and no one called? Silence. Brian stared at the floor. Zachary shifted. Only Kelly held her ground. We're all busy, Edith. Jobs, responsibilities. So did I. But I always showed up and paid up. What did I get in return? I looked at Brian. When was the last time you asked how I was? Truly asked? He had no answer. Zachary, when have you visited me without needing something? Nothing. Kelly, name one time you did something for me. A gesture of kindness. Respect. She opened her mouth and shut it. I sighed. You can't name one. Because our relationship has never been built on care. Just transactions. I gave. You took. Kelly found her voice. This is manipulation. You're making us feel guilty to avoid the issue. And what is the issue, Kelly? You're tearing this family apart, she said. We could lose our home. Zachary's out of his apartment. My parents might end up in a state facility. And that's my responsibility? I asked. Brian is 54. Zachary is 23. You sell houses. Why are you still leaning on me? Because we've come to rely on you. Brian burst out. Exactly, I said. You thought it was your right. Not my choice. And the moment I took that choice back, you panicked. Not because you cared why, but because you needed the support to continue. I looked out the window. Kelly's family still hovered nearby, waiting for the verdict. You know what's saddest? I said, turning back to them. You still think this is about one message. One argument. But it's not. I finally saw the truth. I wasn't your mother. Or grandmother. Or in-law. I was your bank. The room went still. And now that the account's closed, I finished, you suddenly remember how much I mean to you. Kelly took a step forward, her expression twisting. You ungrateful, selfish old woman, Kelly hissed. After all we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Kelly? I asked, voice steady. Go ahead. Tell everyone. She went silent, jaw tight. I'll answer for you, I said. Nothing. You tolerated me only when it suited your goals. You criticized everything, my clothes, my home, even how I lived. You turned Brian and Zachary against me. And now you're shocked I finally said no? I turned to my son. Brian, I've loved you since the day you were born. But I won't stay in this toxic cycle. I won't fund it. I won't excuse it. He looked lost. Mom, what do you want? For us to beg for forgiveness? No, I said gently. I want you to grow up. Take control of your life. Learn respect, for yourself and for others. Kelly snorted. Touching speech, Edith. But let's face reality. We need money now. I looked at her, elegant, poised, entitled. And all I felt was weary. No, Kelly. Not now. Not ever. You can't do this to us, she snapped. We're your family. Family is more than shared names. It's love, respect, presence. And I haven't had that from you in years. I turned to Zachary and Emily. I love you both. My door is open, but not for handouts. Only for real connection. Emily nodded, her eyes shining. Zachary looked away. Now, I said, rising, this conversation is over. I'm asking you to leave. You're kicking us out? Kelly gasped. Yes, I said. And please take your entire support team with you. She grabbed her purse. You'll regret this, Edith. When you're alone, you'll remember this day. Brian hesitated. Mom. Go, Brian. I gently guided him toward the door. When you're ready to talk, not about money but about us, I'll be here. He nodded and walked out. Zachary followed without a word. Emily stayed behind, hugged me tight. I'll call you tomorrow, Grandma. I'll be waiting, sweetheart. I brushed her cheek. When the door shut behind them, I sank into the chair. A strange quietness settled, half sadness, half peace. Voices rose outside. Kelly probably retelling the story to her entourage. Let her. I had spoken my truth. Then the phone rang. It was Lauren. Edith, I just passed your house. What was all that? Kelly called a family meeting, I said. It was dramatic. Want me to come over? Once I would have said no. But this time I answered honestly. Yes. I'd like that. Be there in 20. And I'm bringing that wine we loved. I smiled. Somehow today felt like the beginning of something new. Maybe painful, but necessary. 6 months later, the Tuscan sun warmed my skin as I sat on a small restaurant terrace, wine glass in hand. Lauren scribbled notes in her travel journal beside me. I still can't believe we made it, I said, watching the sun wash over endless hills. James would be proud of you, Lauren said, raising her glass. To the new Edith. I smiled and clinked hers. A lot had changed. After that day, Brian and Kelly tried to change my mind. First with threats, then with flowers and apologies. But every apology came with a price tag. I stayed firm. Eventually the request stopped. They sold the house and moved to a smaller place. Kelly picked up a second job. Brian finally started managing their money. Zachary, to my surprise, took that job with Francis Whitaker. He was finding his footing. We'd met a few times, awkward at first, but slowly the tension eased. No requests. No guilt. Just conversations. Emily stayed closest. She called weekly, visited often, and reminded me to live my life, not just support theirs. She was the one who pushed me to finally take the trip to Italy I'd always put off. My phone buzzed. Emily again. A picture of her new apartment and a note. Can't wait for you to come home and see it, Grandma. I hope Italy's just as amazing. I smiled, replied with a photo of the vineyard in front of me. This was what real family felt like, built on care, not obligation. Back at the hotel that night, I sat with a book on the balcony. Through the wall, I could hear Lauren laughing on the phone with her daughter. I thought about how scared I used to be of being alone. How I'd clung to people who drained me, just to avoid silence. And how letting go gave me real peace. Yes, there were fewer people in my life now. But the ones who remained, Emily, Lauren, a few old friends, were there because they chose to be. Out of love. Out of respect. I remembered Kelly's last words. You'll regret this when you're all alone. But I wasn't alone. I was with myself. Truly, finally with myself. Tomorrow Lauren and I plan to visit a winery, maybe a museum. No pressure. Just joy. Just life on my terms. At 77, I had finally become the main character of my story. The phone buzzed again, Brian's name on the screen. Before I would have dropped everything to answer. Now I just set it aside. Whatever he had to say could wait. Tonight was mine. I looked up at the stars over Tuscany and smiled.